We're continuing the Sikha that the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke. This one was in 1957. Lubavitcher Rebbe started to be Rebbe in in fact, in the Paul, in the, how do you say, de Euro. In fact, he began to be the Rebbe in Tafshin Yud, but really, actually, started in 1950, when the previous Rebbe passed away. But 1 year afterwards, he officially accepted on himself to be the Rebbe. And 6 years later, he said the Sikha. Now, this Sikha, this speech that he gave, is talking about this week's Torah portion, which is a very, very difficult one. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I've heard that there is a saying that anyone who makes a play, it's very, a stage play, a theater play, about Yosef and his brothers, not good things happen to all the people that play in that. That's what they say. On one hand, it lends itself so beautifully to be put into, to the stage. Here are the 12 brothers, the 10 brothers, and what they're scheming and what their motivations are, and you can get good actors, and there's poor Yosef, and he was thrown into the pit, and then what happens afterwards, how Yosef raises up to greatness. Very, very nice. Nevertheless, there is some sort of a hand-me-down that people who make this a play out of this or this, that not good things happen to them. That's what I've heard. I've never seen it written, but I've heard it a lot of times. It's not a good thing to do. And so I've heard that it's happened a lot of times to people. I don't know. You have to. I know there was a movie about it, a multicolored suit or something.
There was a big
yeah, Joseph and his multicolored shirt or something. Can you close the door? Yeah, thanks. All right, so I don't know if it's true all the time, and I don't know if maybe it was true at one time, and I don't even know if it's true at all. But nevertheless, the basis of it is the story is a very embarrassing one. It's a very shameful and embarrassing story, and in no other, religion or whatever would there be such a thing as this. Maybe, something similar, Lahavdil, El Havdalas, like in French history or something like that, with the kings and how this guy killed in English history. This person killed this person, that person.
But talking specifically about how his
brothers.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a good story. Especially because of his brothers, they weren't doing it necessarily for power or anything like that. It doesn't seem that they were doing it. They just hated him. The brothers simply hated him, and they had no particular, I didn't want to say justified reason to hate him. They hated him because he told his father bad things about them, and he said that they were eating a limb from a living animal, etc., etc. That's a reason to kill somebody. And they were supposed to be holy people. Nevertheless, they really wanted to kill him. Just by a miracle, they didn't kill him. They threw him into a pit to think about what to do, and then finally, they decided instead they were going to sell him. They came back. They wanted to kill him, but he was already sold. So I said, okay, good. Somebody else will kill him. And then finally, he was put into a prison where he should have died, an Egyptian prison, and they knew that he was a Jew, and they hated him. Even back then, they didn't even know what a Jew was, but they knew that Jew is. They hated him. And miraculously, he got out of the whole thing. It was only God, to the point where when his brothers finally meet him in the end, so the brothers say to him, they're all afraid of him. They figured he's going to take revenge on them. How do they call it? Kol v'chomer. How much more so? If they wanted to kill him for no reason, is now he has a really good reason to kill him. We figured if he's anything like us, we haven't got a chance. And he said, don't worry about it. You intended for bad, but God intended for good. I got the whole picture. Okay, in the beginning of this whole weird story, Yosef, he's sold to Potiphar, and Potiphar's wife decides that she wants Yosef to have relations with her, which that was a pretty, par for the course thing in Egypt. It says that Egypt, the people were shitufi zima, to the point where there's even a commandment in the Torah. It says, "K'maisa Eretz Mitzrayim, lo tasu lechem." You're not allowed to do what the Egyptians did. It's a commandment. We read this on Mincha and Yom Kippur. Which that, by the way, is where the prohibition of lesbianism comes from. Because that's what they used to do. A woman would marry a woman, a man would marry a man. A man marrying a man is already forbidden in several other places in the Torah. But a person would get married to, a woman would get married to two men. Anyway, there was all these, how do you want to call it? It was decadent. Egypt was a decadent place, and that was accepted. It was an accepted place. It was accepted over there. So all of a sudden, Potiphar's wife, she lays eyes on Yosef. Yosef was very beautiful. And it said that he was beautiful in form and he was beautiful in face. And so she naturally had a lust for him. And Yosef, anyway, he resisted. He did not marry her. It says that he saw his father's profile, his departed father's profile in front of him. It wasn't departed. I mean, he saw his father's profile in front of him. And whatever it was, but so she got angry. And she said to her husband that Hebrew boy that you brought to be with us, he tried to rape me. He did rape me. That's what she said. He did rape me. So he got thrown into prison. He didn't do anything wrong. He got thrown into prison. So it says in the Midrash that really Potiphar's wife, she was doing the will of God. She really intended it would only be good. And in the end, it came out to be good. I mean, because he was thrown into prison. So it ended up that he eventually got out miraculously. Paro had these weird dreams, and he got out and he interpreted the dreams. And because of his interpretation, he saved the entire world. The entire world was going to go into famine, and there wouldn't be any food. There was plenty for all these years, so everybody just ate, and they were all happy and eating. And all of a sudden, just 1 year, there just was a famine. There was nothing to eat. And so Yosef said, listen, don't eat it all up. There's plenty of years. Save it. Enough for 7 years, because there's going to be 7 bad years. And it ended up there wasn't even 7 bad years, because Yosef's father came down to Egypt, and when he did, the Nile River refilled, and people were happy. And okay, so let's go back just to this one little point. The Rebbe says this one little point. that Potiphar's wife, this woman that falsely accused him, I mean, she was the one that was the licentious one. She was the one that was the what do I call it, the sinner. And Yosef was brave. He held himself back, and because of that, she got him thrown into prison. If he would have just given up a little bit on his, I mean, he had every excuse, you know. Here, this poor man, you know, Yosef. He was there. He didn't have a wife. He didn't have anything. Here's this beautiful lady, and her husband is not at home, and everybody's doing that stuff anyway in Egypt. So it was just no big deal, you know. But he said no. He had no chance of getting caught if he would have had relations with her. She would have hid him over. But nevertheless, he said, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm refusing to do it. I refuse to, because of his defying his nature and her nature and the nature of the country and nature." Because of that, he got thrown into prison for 12 years, etc. But it ends up that he saves the whole world. Okay, so says the Rebbe, this is a very big point. This is not just a nice story. It's not, and it's also not a one-time thing. Says the Rebbe, it's happening to each and every one of us, and it's happening to all of us all the time. And sometimes it really gets exaggerated. What does it mean? He says, listen to this. And he says that really deep inside, it wasn't even, it was, what do they call it, subconscious, below subconscious. She really wanted to do l'shem shamayim. She really intended to do what God wants. Even though it came out in the most disgusting way. But still down deep, what really motivated her was that she wanted to do what God wanted.
How did you think that she was doing?
And save the world. What?
How did you think she was doing good?
Well, so it says that there's a midrash that says that she knew that salvation would come through, good things would come through her. She didn't know it wasn't her. It was her daughter, because her daughter eventually she got married to Yosef, and there came out Ephraim and Manasseh. And she also didn't know how it was going to come out good. Right? She didn't know how it was going to come out good. She thought, maybe she'll have Menashe. She didn't understand. The whole thing was ended up that and even if she did think that good things were coming on, this was totally subconscious. She just wanted to have a good time. She just wanted to, have pleasure. That's what she wanted. And here was her perfect chance. It was put right into her hands, into her house. What do they call hashkacha pratis? It's like the thief goes into the store and the owner goes in the back and the register just happens to pop open. And there's $100, stack of $100 bills inside there. And nobody knows. And all of a sudden the electricity goes off and he sees the little beeper on the surveillance camera is off. And the owner goes in the back room to see what's happening. All of a sudden the cash register pops open and there's this money sitting there. A big thief. This is, God, thank you. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you. Takes the money and runs away. It says the thief prays to God before. He's not thinking he's doing anything good. He's thinking he wants the money. She's thinking she wants pleasure. Here, it came into my hands. Right? The register popped open. Here's Yosef. And I'm a thief. I happen to be really good at this thing.
God likes me.
Right? God likes me. She was okay, so really what she was thinking of was her own pleasures. Says the Rebbe, nevertheless, deep down inside, she really intended for the sake of heaven. The Rebbe gives another example. Let's take it. Admor Azaki in Masber B'Tanya. We're on page 70 now. L'chutei Yesichus Aleph. Admor Azaki in Masber B'Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains in the Tanya, Ki b'shas Yehudi, when the Jew, Omed Mispalel, stands and prays, Ubo, and it comes a Ubo b'shah boilav, and at that time when he's praying, boilav goy, comes a non-Jew, and he sees there's a Jew praying, and so he decides to confuse him. Mebabel starts yelling and dancing around in front of him. What should the Jew do? That the Jew should be affected by this. Not that he doesn't reckon with the non-Jew. So how is he affected? He should arouse himself with more power, and pray with more intention. He's praying. Who are you praying? You're praying to God. So think more and more about God. Think about how real God is, how good God is, how strong God is, how beautiful God is, how close God is, how far God is. Think more about Hashem. Litorer biyoter seit litfila, pray biyoter kavana mi'omke alev. You should pray with a deeper heart, so that these things don't bother you. L'chaor, at first glance, built-in movement, it's not understood. If this non-Jew, his intention is to arouse the Jew, l'tefillah, to pray, biyot kavana, with more intention, madua mitpateh davar b'tzura kazu, then why does the non-Jew, if his intentions are really good, that he wants the Jew to pray deeper, then why does it have to come out that the non-Jew disturbs him? Exactly the opposite. Right? The non-Jew should go around and tell everybody, should be quiet if there's any noise. Close the windows here, the Jew is really praying. You see, like in a library, right? It disturbs. People making noise, it disturbs you. You want to concentrate on a book. All this noise concentrates. You can't come in there playing music. Pirusham Shaladavurim is that the Goy himself, the Penim Yuso in his inside, Ubishorsho, Bishorsh called the word Kedusha, Yodea knows, V'chash, and he feels, Sha'alav lahosef Kedusha, that he should add holiness. Aval me'achar she'adavar over ba'olamo be'emsas goy, shu'ei fucha me'kedusha. But because it comes through a non-Jew, and this non-Jew has absolutely no idea what Judaism is, what godliness is, what holiness is, therefore mitpatel b'tzorach hafucha. Therefore, he doesn't know how to express it. It comes out in exactly the opposite way. Achakavana panemius, but the inside intention is l'sayeh or l'hosef b'kedusha, is to help holiness. Let's say, for instance, sometimes a father, he cares about his children. Because he cares about them, he spanks them, right? Spanks him. Well, that could be a good thing, but it depends how he spanks them. If he spanks them, he starts to hurt them, then that's not good, right? It'd be maybe to teach them a lesson that he's really angry at them, so he shows that he's really angry at them, but he's not really angry at them. He's angry at what they do, right? But sometimes he doesn't know how to express this. He sees his son is doing a not good thing, and it's not good. He knows it's not good. He doesn't know how to express it, so it comes out in a bad way.
Going back to this, so the goy wants to help the Jew.
Same thing. In his inner subconsciousn's right. Subconscious, he wants the Jew to do it. But how does he do it? He doesn't know how to translate it.
But isn't it, I have a problem, something that the goy wants to help the Jew, first of all.
Right.
And then second of all, isn't it God that's motivating the goy to do this for the benefit of the Jew?
Yes. But why does it have to be in this way? Right? In other words, the Jew has to ignore the noise. And how does he ignore the noise? Only by deepening his mind deeper into thinking about God. But he has to ignore the noise. He has to do a bad thing.
So the question is, why does God use a goy?
Yeah. That's number one. God used the goy. But number two, if it ever happens, and the goy comes, the fact, right? The fact. This goy comes, and listen, why does it say a goy? It could say a Jew. A Jew, you could say to him, explain to him. Somebody could come and explain. He's praying. What's wrong with you? Don't you understand? Jew might understand. A non-Jew doesn't understand. He comes and he makes noise. He sees a Jew. He hates the Jew. He wants to disturb the Jew. He's making all sorts of noise in front of the Jew. What's the Jew supposed to do in that case? He's supposed to deepen and deepen. If a Jew would just hit him, try to punch him, that's exactly what the non-Jew wants. Stop praying. He wants him to stop praying. Anything he does is stop praying. He's willing to get punched. Just don't pray. What he doesn't want to do his Jew. He wants to disturb the Jew. Wreck his day. Wreck his minute. Wreck his hour. So what's the Jew supposed to do? Deepen his mind. Okay.
And this is going to be related to Joseph's brothers.
Right. So what is really motivating this non-Jew? You say, what's motivating him is that he's an evil guy. He's a bad person. And he says, no. The fact of the matter is what's really motivating him is that he really wants the Jew to pray deeper. But he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that's his motivation. He has absolutely no idea that that's his motivation. Right? He's motivated by something, and he doesn't know how to express it. He doesn't know how to translate it.
That's a positive spin.
He doesn't want it. That's the positive spin, right? Exactly right. Says the Rebbe, not only is it bringing you closer to God, because you have to ignore the world, at least temporarily, and pray deeper and get in more connection with God. Says even more, that deep down inside, this non-Jew really wants to serve God. In fact, the whole entire creation is that way. The whole entire creation wants to serve God. That's what I said to you before. God always does for us what we need, but not always what we want. Right? This person, he wanted to pray, he wants a quiet place. By means of this, that he's that he deepens himself. It's a new thing. They say that there's a story. Maybe I even heard this from him himself. I don't remember where I heard this from. Giuliani, when he was the mayor of New York. So there was some sort of a terrorist attack. I think it was the one in Chabad where they killed those boys on the bridge. And he went, and there was Chabad. There was all sorts of Jews that were there, and he saw that they were all, they divided up the Shas to learn the Shas. Everybody accepted on themselves good deeds. They said they were going to make new institutions for kindness and everything. So they said he should speak. So they figured, he would say, I really, you have to realize that we're doing everything we can in the police force, and we're trying to protect you, and I feel your feelings, and et cetera, et cetera. No, he said, listen, I want to say something to you. He says, I know there's other groups also that tragedies happen to them, and they're always angry, and they're yelling at me, where's the police protection, and where's this? He said, and you're justified also to yell at me, and really, we're going to increase police protection, and he actually did. The fact is he did. He said, but the thing that I'm amazed about, he said, all the other groups, they're always mad, and they're always angry, and they're justified to be angry. And you're also justified to be angry, but you're not angry. So I see that you're taking your anger and you're totally bringing it on in a totally different, such a positive way. He says, no, I understand the eternality of the Jewish people. I think it was a long time ago I heard it. Now I understand that a people that's like this, they can't possibly be defeated if they look at everything positive and they take something positive out of everything. They never get negative. So this is a very amazing thing to me. This is a big lesson to me. In other words, what's wrong? These boys were killed. It's a terrible thing. But they did something good. Something good came out of it. Says in the end, even though it's a terrible thing to say, but even the Nazis, all these other people, they somehow, the deep down, they intended to some good. The Mashiach will come and he'll explain how this is. Now it's totally impossible to understand it. We can't understand. These people were totally evil. But it says there's even such a nation called Amalek. Just one second. There's a nation called Amalek. And it's a commandment to destroy them. It's a commandment to kill them. Commandment to kill them. What good are these people? The good of it is there's a commandment. You can do the commandment. Right? It's a commandment that there is such a thing in the world that reminds you that God is not understandable, that God is not what you think God is. So you won't decide I'm going to do Torah mitzvahs, so I'm going to get big rewards. Because a lot of people do Torah mitzvahs, they don't get any rewards. Seemingly don't get any rewards. So in the Talmud it says, okay, maybe in this world you don't get a reward, but in the world to come you get a reward. After you die you get a reward. In the raising of the dead you get a reward. But for sure, without any doubt, there'll be a reward. Without a reward. Whether you appreciate the reward, whether you can say, listen, forget the reward, just forget the pain and forget the reward. I don't want the reward, and don't give me the pain. Who needs people get shot in the streets? And who needs this non-Jew to come and disturb me when I'm davening? Just forget the whole thing. So he says, good, but that's not the way that God wants it.
Now this boy who's doing this murder, even though he doesn't understand what he's doing, and something good we see something good coming out of it, that boy is not going to get credit for doing something good.
No, you have to kill him.
Yeah.
Sure, you got to kill him. What's the question? If you catch him, you got to kill him. That's the big problem with the country. They catch these terrorists and they don't kill them. Of course, you got to kill them. What's the question? That's it. But does not mean that doesn't disqualify the good that was in there. It disqualifies the bad. Says the Rebbe, the meaning is that down deep. Pirusham Shaladavrim Shagoy Atzma, the non-Jew himself, the Penimis Vashorsho, because the source of everything comes from holiness. This is a basic lesson. What does it mean? God is one. God is one means everything is good in its source. It doesn't mean you can eat everything that you see and you can do anything that you feel, because all my feelings are holy and all the food is holy and everything is holy. Therefore I can do whatever I want to. No. It has to be holy on God's terms. But nevertheless, everything is holy. Right? Like you said, this terrorist, he kills somebody, you got to kill him. You can't say he's good and therefore I'm going to deal with him like I would deal with my own children. I would give them food, I would take care of them. No. That's your idea of good, but that's not God's idea of good.
So he's trying to explain why bad things happen to,
yes.
why bad things happen to good
right.
people. You just don't understand that.
It's really not bad, right? It says, "Ein biyadenu lo shalvus rashoyim v'lo." What is it? Yesuriya tzadikim. The righteous people, why they suffer and why they. It's the same thing with tzadik v'tovlo, tzadik v'ralo. It's also in the Gemara and Brachas also.
There's the stories about where some Rav met Eliyahu Hanavi and he wanted to go on a journey.
Right.
It looked like
There's Gilgulim.
doing all these bad
There's
things.
reincarnations, yeah. Reincarnation, sometimes a person can be a reincarnation of a bad person, and therefore he has to suffer. And there are great people who really, truly understand it. There's also a lot of fakers who don't understand it. And then there's 99% of the Jews, like me, that have absolutely no idea what's going on over there. Who can possibly... I'm a gilgul of somebody. Could be. Yodea v'cha she'olav lahosif kedusha. You have to know that you have to add on holiness in the world. I'm sorry, the non-Jew, this non-Jew who's making trouble and trying to disturb your prayers, and this person, he knows that he has to add holiness in the world. But because it came through a non-Jew, which is the opposite, mitbatel b'tzora fucha, so it comes out in the opposite way. But the kafana panemius, his inner, really deep, inner intention is to add holiness in the world. Kafisha Omar Magid Mezrus, like the Magid Mezrus said, Shekol and shall redifus Lavan, that the whole reason that Lavan ran after Yaakov came, what? Only in order to add letters in the Torah. We did this yesterday, remember? Therefore, Radaf Lavan Achar Yaakov, therefore Lavan ran after Yaakov, he pursued him to kill him. Hari Asipur Nichta, but Torah, it's written in the Torah. Why is it written in the Torah? What's it important to us? Because by means of this, there's added another paragraph in the Torah, and with this paragraph there's all the implications that are there, and all the secrets that are there, and the mysteries, and etc. V'zu hara b'yachas l'kol ha'olomos v'starim b'avodas Hashem. And this teaches us regarding all the concealments regarding serving God. Ha'emasi kafisha inyanu b'pinimius v'shosho, that really the truth is that everything, how it is in its source, shalozu bilavad she'ena menagid l'kedusha, that nothing can really oppose holiness, even the destruction of the temple, right? There's no more opposition to holiness and disturbance of holiness than the destruction of the temple. He says the Rebbe, no. Somehow or other this helps holiness. Because this comes through such a destructive and negative way. It comes out and we explain it totally differently. But in the inside, it really comes to help Kedusha. So Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple, and Titus destroyed the second temple. Really, they were doing a holy thing. They didn't know it, and it didn't come out to be holy, and we also don't know it. But eventually it will. That's the story, by the way, they say of Rabbi Akiva. That Rabbi Akiva, he walked by the ruins of the Beit HaMikdash with Rabbi Gamliel, other rabbis, and they all cried. They saw there was a fox that came from the Holy of Holies, and they cried, and he laughed. And they said, we're crying because we saw such a terrible thing. And he said, I'm laughing because you're seeing such a terrible thing. The prophecies are being fulfilled. The prophecies of the prophets that say that the temple will be destroyed, and there's also prophecies that say that it will be rebuilt and that it's going to be really good. So that's hidden inside of what's going on over here, and that I'm laughing. When a person does not make a mistake and the same mistake as the non-Jew does, right? The non-Jew feels holiness, but he interprets it totally wrong, and it reacts totally in a negative way. But really his deep intention is to do something holy. So when a Jew does feel this feeling of holiness and feels his responsibility to make holiness in the world, and don't make the same mistake as the non-Jew made. Don't misinterpret it. Therefore, when you see something that happens in the world, you should know that don't misinterpret it. Don't think that the bad things that happen in the world are really bad. They're not. Really, there's nothing to conceal godliness. Because everything comes to help godliness. Not only that this concealment will not cause you to be any weaker, in other words, that you have difficulties, but it'll make you even stronger. A person feels and he's in this, and he makes a decision, he makes a strong. I think this word should be kasher nachush. I think maybe this word should be nachush instead of yachush. And when a person is stubborn and he is devoted to this attitude that everything in the world is really for the sake of holiness, and nothing should disturb us from doing what we know is right, mula emes batalakol. When you feel this, then everything becomes negated. Right? That's why I think why people like sports so much. Sports. Right? You have a basketball. Yeah, it's very simple. You take this ball and you got to put it into that net over there. So yes, it's not so easy to do, but okay, you're playing alone, you have to shoot a lot of times. Says, just wait a minute, I didn't tell you. There's all these fellows and they're all like, 6 feet, 7 feet tall, and they're experts at stopping you. And there's one more thing. They want to put the ball in this other hoop, which they're really, really good at doing. And you have to stop them. Why? What?
That's exciting.
This is pretty bizarre. I mean, this is terrible. He says, you know how much you get paid for this? I mean, if you're good at it, you get paid about $3 million a year. That's not bad, right? Everybody watches you. You're famous. Also, you have what to do. You're also active. This is pretty good. But you got to work out, and you have to prepare yourself, and you have to this. But that's the goal. So people like this. Why? Because there's opposition, you see that there's a victory and who tries harder. Right? It's not one team looks at the other guy and say, hey, these people are too big. This is crazy. I'm going home. Right? You have these football games. These guys are boxing. These are mammoth, people. One person just looks at this and says, what am I doing here? Standing in front of all these people, beating somebody up, getting beaten up. This is ridiculous. I'm going home. But people love to see the competition. They love to see somebody standing against opposition and paying no attention to the opposition. Oh, this makes everybody, the crowd goes berserk, right? The guy gets beaten up, he gets beaten up all over them, and all of a sudden he comes back with a punch, right? These guys were like 50-0. In the last, half hour of the game, they make 7 touchdowns, and they come back and they win the game. Oh, everybody loves this, right? And it's really quite amazing. So the fact of the matter is, this is somehow or other instilled inside a man, and that's also the same thing with us. That we see that the world, that we have to put this ball, which is the world, and we have to put it in a goal, and that there's all this opposition. So we think, listen, the opposition is there because it's a good thing. Why don't you say, hey guys, listen, I have to put this ball in the basket, and just start crying. Please, make it easy on us. Like the crowd will say, boo, that's terrible. But maybe I can convince them all. I'll go to each one of them and say, listen guys, I have a mother, I have a father watching me at home. Come on guys, go home. No, it's no good. There has to be opposition, and when there is, then that makes it an accomplishment. That makes it an accomplishment. The same thing with the world. We're in the world. Of course, the thing is it's not the same thing, right? Because in basketball, there's clear rules. You know who the enemy is. You know what the goal is. There's been thousands of games before you. You know exactly how it's played. In life, all of a sudden the enemy pops up, and a lot of times the enemy is you yourself, is your own attitude and your own urges and your own weaknesses and things like that. And so therefore you have to fight against that. You fight against that. But nevertheless, that's what Chassidus is for, to give you a clear idea of what the picture is and what the goal is. The goal is to make the whole world a holy, meaningful, beautiful place. There's going to be opposition to this. Okay, so it says what you're supposed to do. You should know that the opposition itself really wants to become holy, to reveal its true nature. That's what everything wants. So don't be dismayed. Don't be depressed. Even though there's a lot to be depressed about. I mean, here you see the Psalms of King David. Here you have 150 Psalms. I never really counted it. I guess I should. How many of them are crying about his enemies? I mean, he had terrible enemies all over the place, and he didn't do anything. He didn't run for office. God chose him. He picked him to be the king. He didn't even want to be the king. And he picked him to be the king. As soon as he got to be the king, everybody hated it. And they knew that God chose him. And he had enemies from his own family, from his inside, everywhere disappointing him and letting him down. Kasher yechush ba'avora zu, when a person decides this yachlit kach, hachlata itana ba'emes, then he'll make a firm decision. Umula emes batel hakol, and when there's truth, then everything goes away. Yizbadlu kol ha'alamos v'storim, and then all of the opposition goes away. Menios v'ikuvim, mishum shemitoch kach shu yodea, because he knows the truth. Sheyesh b'kol davar nitzutz elokei, that everything there is a spark of godliness. V'akol mahaves siule kedusha, and everything is there to help holiness. Mashpiahu, then it has an effect on the body. Amalim, that hides over you, that hides over godliness. La'orer bo legalosus and nitzutz shelo, that you can reveal even the spark of holiness which is in your physical body and everything around you. V'mimela nirim gam kan, you can also see here in a revealed way the true intention, Shavi Tosfos to Kedusha, to bring additional holiness to the world. Again, we have to remember the world, God is making the world. And we don't see it, but when you do see it, then there is health, and there is happiness, and there is meaning, and there's blessing. And who doesn't want those things? So they're really good things. And when you have all this happiness and health, your positive attitude, then you can get things done, but you get good things done. You get good things done, not like the thief, he prays to God before he steals. If he steals, he's making somebody else feel miserable. It's possible to make everybody feel good. There's enough good to go around, enough food, enough money, enough this, that everyone can feel good and that they can connect themselves to true goodness. Right? I mean, one of the greatest pleasures of the world is to see your children grow up. See your children. And one of the greatest pleasures in the world. People don't have children. It says that they're like dead. Because they're missing this pleasure. Now, there's all sorts of low pleasures, physical pleasures in the world, which are very nice, they're good. Some of the physical pleasures are very bad. Some of them are really very destructive, especially if it takes a person away from getting married and having children. A person doesn't get married, doesn't have children, but he has a problem. He's got a problem. It's not that he's a sinner, he's a bad person. He's got a problem. He has to get the prayer. He doesn't want to get married, doesn't want to have children. Also has a problem. Right? This is a problem that has to be dealt with and solved, because there's no greater, I don't know how you want to call it, the satisfaction to a person, humanness, if you want to call it, than seeing your own children, human beings, your own children growing up, and that you had an effect on them, you brought them into the world. This is totally amazing. It says that in this, human beings are partners with God. That's the only time that a person can be partners with God. That's why idolatry is forbidden. Because all these other things in the world, they're not partners with God. They have no free will. They have no free will. A human being is a partner with God that he can choose to do good. A human being that chooses to do bad is not a partner with God. He chooses that he wants to call himself God or to negate the Torah. He's not a partner anymore. But a person that wants to be a partner, he can be a partner with God. When the sun does what it wants to, and the moon does, they're not partners with God, because they don't do what they want to. They do what God wants automatically. A person can choose to do good, and when he does choose to do good, then he's partners with God. Says the Rebbe, that's what everybody wants. And that's a wonderful thing, but there are all sorts of difficulties in the world, and God makes these difficulties. Don't fool yourself. God makes them also. This is the teaching. Rizal. Eishes Potiphar l'shem shemayim niskavla. That's what it says, what the rabbis say, that the wife of Potiphar, she intended for the sake of God, of heaven. It was really intended for the good. When there is concealment in the world, when there are things that make you feel down, that make you feel, the giving up, there's two ways to do it. Derech achas, one way is to fight. To fight the davar amalim. Kolomar, in other words, lir oto kehelam vehester behemet. This is my enemy, I'm going to fight against it. La'omo b'kol hakochos l'shem milchamazu. Fight. Sports. Victory. The other way, and this is the way that the Rebbe is advising, shehi ne'ima yoter, it's a lot better, is a yediyah, you should know the penim yuso, that in the inside, mehava davar siul kedusha, that you should know that these things are really helping holiness. This opposition. Ukeshe davar nikvakach, and when this is so, mit oreru mitgale, then he can be aroused and reveal. Who bol yedehis galus, and it can be, then the spark inside of this thing becomes revealed. Kach shebe'emtzaut hadavar hamalim atzmo, that by means of this thing that's concealed comes in addition light and holiness. Because the thing that was your enemy, you can see that there's going to be a benefit from this. Maybe I'll give you a really good example. I hope it's a good example. The Lubavitcher Rebbe's attitude towards Zionism. Now, Zionism was a movement that originally started out, to take God out of Judaism. We're going to do it ourselves. There's no such thing as chosen people, and no such thing as holy land, and holy Torah, and holy mitzvahs, and holy nation. There's no such thing as holy. We're a nation like every other nation. And we don't need there's people stubborn people, whatever, crippled people, spiritually, whatever, that they need religion. Okay, what are we going to do? But essentially, that's not, how do you say, the acceptable way.
What's religious Zionism?
Those were people who thought that they could mix in the two. That they would accept Zionism, they wouldn't reject it like the ultra-Orthodox did. They wouldn't reject the whole idea of Zionism. Because, like I say, Zionism, they wanted to do away with the whole idea of holiness. No such thing as holy. There's no holy nation, and the Jews aren't a holy people, and the land is not a holy land, and the commandments are not holy commandments, not a holy temple, a holy city, and all that. We're people like everybody else. Right? There's no such thing as we're the chosen nation. Chosen by who? What are you chosen? If God exists, he exists, maybe after you die. You don't know where you go, so you ask your children to say Kaddish. Maybe. Probably not. Right? It was in a movement to redefine Judaism. Judaism is no longer God's people. It's a nationality, like French, like Germans, like any other nation. That was the idea. Okay, so this is the antithesis of Judaism. This is the antithesis of Judaism. Judaism says everything in the world is holy, potentially, and we Jewish people have been chosen to bring it out. And they're saying no such thing as holiness, and the Jewish people are not special, and we have no job in the world. And that was Zionism. Then there were religious Zionists. There were people who said, listen, maybe we can mix the two of them together. That people are coming back to the land of Israel. This is the Messianic vision, that the Messiah is going to bring all the Jews back to Israel. And in fact, we can say, therefore, that Zionism is the beginning of the redemption. And that's how they did it. The Lubavitcher Rebbe was very, 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 very against this. Very against it. Why? Because it leaves the idea of holiness, etc., but it completely de-emphasizes, kills, if you want to say, the idea of Mashiach and what the Mashiach is supposed to be. It redefines Mashiach. Mashiach is supposed to be a person a human being, that he is supposed to come and change the world, make all the Jews religious, and then they're going to all come back to the land of Israel. That's what Mashiach is supposed to do. Mashiach is not like the frosting on top of the cake. There's going to be the redemption, there's going to be this, everybody's going to come back, Zionism will bring them back, and then the Mashiach is going to come, he'll come, it's a thing that's going to happen. Like he'll have a donkey, he'll have a this. That's not important. The important thing is that we're coming to the land of Israel, and we have the land, the Jews have the land, and it's a wonderful thing. Okay, how does Lubavitcher Rebbe, also the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, because if you give such importance to the government, besides the fact that you're totally redefining what Mashiach is and the redemption, you're redefining the whole thing. Even though there are midrashim that say that something like that is going to happen, but the Rambam says not.
Won't Mashiach be at the head of the government?
The Mashiach will be the king.
A king has a government.
Okay, good. It's a different type of a government. A king is not necessarily, if you want to call it government, it'll be a monarchy. It'll be the Melech, king of Mashiach. It could be that everything will stay the way it is. Maybe there'll be Bibi Netanyahu. Who knows? All these people will still be there, but there'll be a king. And the king, he's the one that'll decide, if things go off track, like the Rebbe, right? Like the Rebbe. What did the Rebbe do? The Rebbe, he let Chabad be run by all the Chabad houses, by the different organizations. He didn't make every little decision. When things went off the tracks, right, then he would say that this is not what I wanted.
A government can also be looked at as being like the infrastructure. These guys, railroads.
Yeah, good, right. 100%.
But then they're not the king.
Right, that's right, yes. There will be an army, there definitely will be judges, there will be all these things. Good. Now we have a very big problem. Here we have the regular Zionists, non-religious people. Then we have the religious Zionists, which they, according to Chabad, are in a way maybe even more misdirected. At least the other ones say there's no God and there's no anything. So there's no whole business. They say no, there is God. It's 50-50. There is God, but there's no Mashiach. There is redemption, but it already came. Okay, now how does Chabad deal with this whole business, right? How does it... So let's say the ultra-Orthodox people say, who cares about the non-religious people? Don't worry, God is going to get them. The religious Zionists say, we'll be friends with them. Well, they'll see it'll wear off, right? They'll wear off to see it. It wore off the other way, right? It made a lot of people not. We'll see, we'll convince them.
We're not talking about when Mashiach comes.
Now, how do you deal with these people now, before Mashiach comes? Yeah. So we'll show them, at least we'll have our influence in this, our group will have another, how do you say, party. We have another political party. A person can be also religious and also in the world. What does Chabad say? Chabad says, like it says here, every Jew wants to do all the commandments. The Jew that's your biggest enemy and your biggest opposition, and he hates, and he wants to make everything that's forbidden in the Torah permissible, and everything that's permissible, that's a commandment in the Torah, ridiculous, right? This person is your enemy back and forth. Says that person, he wants to be a Jew. He wants to be a good Jew. He wants to do all the commandments. He wants to do everything he wants to do that says in the Torah, everything just like you do. The difference is that you somehow lucked out and you do it, and he didn't. So you have to treat him as though that he really does want to do Torah and mitzvahs, and you have to do it in a way to understand the human personality. You can't come up to him every single day and say, do commandments, You have to be nice. You have to show them that you're a human being also. But the main thing is to get the other person to eventually do one commandment, two commandments, sit and learn Torah, and show them that you're not a political party. You're not doing it for any political. In other words, reveal the true essence of the person. That's what he's saying. Inside, everybody wants to do what Hashem wants. Inside, every Jew especially. From the Jews, when the Jews do what God wants, the non-Jews will start to think, listen, maybe there really is such a thing as a creator that creates me. Maybe God is not sitting up on a cloud or something, or he died for our sins, thousands of years ago. Maybe God is really real, and he really exists, and he really is living me, and he really cares, and he really gave the Torah to the Jews, and the Jews really gave the 7 Noahide commandments to the world. Maybe. Then all of a sudden, but the point is, inside of every Jew, and inside of every human being, and inside of everything, is pure godliness and pure good. To reveal that, that's the whole idea of Mashiach.
Maybe I'm not being optimistic or naive, except for a couple of people who I've met who seem to be really angry at God for whatever the reasons. Most people buy into this.
Nowadays, yeah. Nowadays, listen, if you're a nice person, if you show people that you really like them and you really care about them, and that you're not got your agenda, you're not interested in, that they should be in my group and my, they should vote for me, and I'm against you and you're against me, and I'll show you, and you won't show me. Like the basketball game, we'll win and you'll lose. That's the idea of Yechida that we talked about. There's no losers. Right? We have to go? That's the idea of the Yechida of the soul. There's no losers. It encompasses everything. But when a person, but not to make a mistake, it has to be encompassing everything according to the Torah. It can't be that it encompasses everything. You do whatever you want.
Of course.
Do whatever you want.
Everybody knows that. I think they know that.
Now maybe, okay, nowadays. There was this guy, I don't even know if you mentioned his name, it was Shabtai Tzvi. He said that you can do all the sins in the world and you make blessings on them. Because everything comes from God. This idea of unity of God. He would make a blessing. Matir Asurim, the things that are forbidden, he released them.
I knew a guy who told me that, I asked him why he always wears black. He says his rabbi told him that if you wear black, you can do anything you want and you'll be forgiven.
It says, really? Somebody said that? It says in the Gemara, he went to jail, yeah. Then he had to wear, now he has to wear orange. He's dead. It says that a person who does sins, that he should wear black and go to a place where nobody knows him and confess. I mean, black is sort of not really a happy color, but it's a formal color. I guess that's the idea. Okay, let's go. So that's the purpose of what we're teaching. Everything really is holy inside, but you have to reveal it. You have to reveal it. And things that become really, truly holy, they'll do what the Torah says. And they'll do what the Torah says according to what it says in the Talmud, according to the laws. Okay, let's do Hanukkah a little bit, huh? Got to start? Okay, good, wonderful.